This is called Why 80s Movies Suck. So I'm just going to put it out there. They don't. 80s movies fucking rule. I love 80s films. Maybe my favorite era of film. You know, I know some people like the gritty 70s vibe. But for me, it's all about the fucking cheesy, over-the-top, fun-loving 80s films. Those are my favorite films for the most part. So many of the classic films that I grew up with and love come from the 80s. And I think it was a superlative time in film history. And I think a lot of people agree with that. So anyway, let's take a look at this and see what arguments this dude is going to put forth for this terrible, terrible premise.
80s cinema was probably the worst decade in cinema history.
And then while he's saying that, he's showing Bill and Ted, which is a fucking awesome movie. Like, Bill and Ted, how do you not like Bill and Ted? What is not enjoyable about fucking Bill and Ted as a fucking premise or a film? It's two fucking airheaded California stonery surfery types. Not that you ever see them surfing. I don't even think you see them smoking weed either, but they're just airheaded dudes that kind of have that vibe. It's like, whoa. That are given a fucking time machine and they travel throughout history gathering up historical things. Like, how is that not a fucking gold premise? How does that not deserve a gold star just based on the premise alone? And then to actually deliver on that with Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter and George Carlin all doing amazing fucking work. As far as I'm concerned, Keanu Reeves is better in this role than he's ever been in any other fucking role in his entire career. Not that that's saying much, but still. Huh? Like, that premise alone fucking blows my socks off to this day. I would murder 152 people to see a movie with that unique of a premise get made now. Everything now is fucking sequel, remake, reboot, rehash. This is a film with an actually goddamn unique motherfucking premise, and you're gonna shit on that? Of all the fucking films you could take a fucking dump on, this one? You twat! Hey, if you like this clip, you might like the full stream, which I do every Sunday, more or less, over on the Pessimist Productions Patreon, link down below. Thank you kindly.
This is just my opinion, so please don't attack me here. I know...
Too late. I don't care if it's just your opinion. It's just my opinion that you suck.
Now, of course, there were some gems in the 80s.
Bueller.
But in comparison to its predecessor in the 70s and what was to come in the 90s, the 80s just was bland. It was just boring. There weren't as many good projects per year than there were in the 70s or the 90s or the early 2000s, because what did you get? 4 or 5 good movies from the 80s, and that...
I don't know what to fucking say to that. 4 or 5 good movies from the entirety of the fucking 80s? You're insane. You're not, this is not an opinion, okay? This is a medically diagnosable condition. No one should think this unless you just hate film. Like, if you're just a person's like, I ain't down with no movies, man. I'm more about this or that. Like, okay, fine. You don't like movies in general. It's not your fucking bag. Okay, that's one thing. But to be a film lover and to tell me, straight face, look at me in the fucking eyeballs, be like, there was only 5 or 6 good films made in the entirety of the 80s. What? Are you trolling? Tell me you're trolling. Tell me this is just rage bait bullshit. It has to be. No one could be this dumb.
That's not even a movie a year that's actually quality and stands over time. Whereas from the 70s, you could pick 30 great films. From the 90s, you could pick 50 great films. You know, there's heaps to choose from. In the 80s, there really weren't a lot of good movies. You had the Rocky franchise take a turn for the worst with Rocky 3, and when a Bond movie is called Octopussy, you know it's just not a good decade for cinema.
Oh yeah, because prior to that, the Bond movies never got silly and fucking said ridiculous. There wasn't like a character in 60s Bond called Pussy Galore or anything like that. Come on. By the way, Rocky 3, that's your example of a fucking terrible Rocky movie? I mean, Rocky 5 I could get. Like, oh man, Rocky 5, what a piece of shit. Rocky 3 was dope. Rocky 4 was amazing.
But to get started with why it's bad, and why it's a bad decade of movie history, for me, it's the types of characters and stories that were written in the 80s. Coming off the back of truthful, dark, honest, raw stories from the 70s, the 80s was almost a decade of fake naivety and of romanticizing life and giving happy endings and soft finishes and soft touches. It wasn't about being real.
Oh my God, what? Someone went to the movies for escapism? Holy shit! This fucking film snob is at an event where he's talking to Orson Welles, and he asks Orson Welles, what do you think of all this escapist garbage that's coming out lately? All of these meaningless popcorn films that are just empty and have nothing profound to say and blah, 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 blah. And Orson Welles, like, he's expecting Orson Welles to be like, oh, yes, my little genius pupil, you too have seen through the artificiality of this tainted time, blah, blah. Instead, Orson Welles like, I like those movies. Like, not everything has got to be some profound shit, dude. Sometimes it's cool to just watch a movie for entertainment value. That's fine. And that just struck me as like exactly like this guy. Some guy who's a big pretentious fucking snob who just loves the grittiness and the realness of the 70s films and doesn't want to just confront the fact that, yeah, that shit was cool, but America had its fill and was like, okay, now we want something a little bit more light and entertaining. And that's what they got. They got a whole slew of like unique, inventive, imaginative films that were just purely designed to be fun, entertaining rides. And this dude just can't stand it because he just wanted us to be mired in the gritty realness of the 1970s forever. Like, yeah, that had its fucking place, dude. That had its time, that had its place, and its time will come around again. But it doesn't need to be always. It doesn't need to be gritty o'clock all the damn time. Like, yeah, God forbid a movie be fucking fun.
Synths were in at the time. Not even music was about being real. It was about being, you know, crafted and happy-go-lucky, and the 80s felt like one massive dopamine hit. Even the movies in the 80s felt like just a huge dopamine hit. They were trying to make
oh my God, movies in the 80s were trying to be pleasurable to the audience. Oh no, the carnal sin. Movies trying to be fun and entertaining. No, it's hell. I have discovered hell on earth. What?
Make you feel as good as possible throughout the film. And while that's good for the entertaining aspect, for the actual cinematic art, I don't think that makes a good story.
I mean, can you believe the nerve of these 80s film writers, directors, producers, actors, and etc. trying to make their movies entertaining? Like, come on. Nah, that's not what movies are all about. It's about the integrity of cinema or some horse shit.
I don't think trying to make someone happy makes a good story, because where's the message in that? And where's the truth in that? Life.
What do you mean, where's the fucking truth in that? You never tried to make someone happy? Has that never been on your agenda? Trying to make someone smile? Trying to make someone's day a little better? Trying to give someone else a little bit of pleasure? Is that just a fucking completely foreign goddamn experience to your miserable ass? And by the way, Not all 80s movies were happy. There was plenty of miserable shit in the 80s that was counterculture shit. Go watch fucking Society. Is that a happy movie? Go watch The Fly. Is that a happy movie? No. No, it's not.
Can be happy, but life can also be sad. Life can also be miserable. Life can be angry. They just didn't seem to cover
You're making me angry with this fucking take, dude. So yeah, believe me, I'm experiencing the anger of life firsthand about now.
as many of the emotions and the emotional truths of life as other decades had prior. That's my opinion. Don't hold me accountable. And I know many people will like the fact that the 80s was a happy-go-lucky, happy finishing decade. But for me, that does just annoy me. No movies in the 80s were remotely realistic. They were lighthearted, romanticized.
Dude, no. First of all, even the movie you're showing right now had some like dark emotional moments. Like The Breakfast Club was not all just like happy-go-lucky shit. There was a lot of fucking like confronting like the motivations of like bullying and like social stratification in a high school setting and stuff like that. And yeah, like it was done in a fun way, but there was some serious dramatic moments in that film. But even setting that aside, it doesn't seem like you've delved all that deep into 80s cinema if you think it was all like that. There was tons of dark, gritty shit made in the 80s. Maybe it wasn't the mainstream at that time, but there was tons of cinema made in the 80s that was the undercurrent that was pushing back against the Smiley Reagan years horse shit. And there was plenty of stuff that didn't push back and was still good. Because guess what? Happiness is also an emotion. Not everything needs to be fucking misery. Not everything needs to be grimdark. My life is shit and I'm an alcoholic and I beat my wife, but I feel conflicted about it. Oh no, my demons. Not everything needs to be that. Nothing wrong with that film. Nothing wrong with making a movie about a hard-boiled fucking character that's got problems and deep character flaws, but is still humanized. Nothing wrong with making that film, but there's also nothing wrong with making a fun film about, like, let's go back to the future. Oh no, I'm in the past and my mom wants to fuck me. That's weird, but hey, it's the 80s, so we don't have to treat it all that serious. Dun, 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 What's wrong with that? Nothing. There's nothing fucking wrong with that. Just because you have some sort of arbitrary fucking intolerance for happiness in film does not mean those films suck. It means you have some goddamn off-the-wall, unreasonable, fucking prickly standard that no film should be expected to live up to. Oh no, a movie that's happy with a happy ending and happy characters? Fuck that shit. Burn that to the ground. I have no interest in such trivial garbage, for I am a highfalutin intellectual, and only miserable films with sad characters and gritty conclusions that underline the dark, insidious nature of the human animal, only those are good.
Versions of things, and they were self-censored in a way to make everyone feel okay about life and themselves. They didn't.
Oh no, uplifting fucking cinema. It's the fucking dark. I mean, what? What is the criticism? You can't just simply say they were uplifting films, like that somehow encapsulates the criticism. Why is that bad? All right, this is just some random list, okay? This is not like an official list of any kind, but look at these films, all right? This is a dude. Greatest films of the 80s. Raging Bull. Not a happy, uplifting fucking movie. Raiders of the Lost Ark. Yes, happy, uplifting movie. A lot of dark stuff, a lot of dark imagery, but ultimately, good triumphs over evil and all that stuff. Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back ends on a fucking downer note. Ends on a fucking downer note. Luke loses his hand. Han Solo is captured. The rebellion has been fucking seemingly thwarted by the Empire, and it's going to be years and years before you see if they can, pull it back out again. If they can, defeat the Empire after all. Because in this film, it ends on a major downer note. Even though that's The Shining. Ooh, wow. What an uplifting, happy-go-lucky fucking movie that was, right? The Shining, what a fucking smile fest. Aliens, ooh, yeah. It's just like some light fucking happy fare. We're shooting xenomorphs. We're in terrible danger. Once Upon a Time in America, oh yeah. Laugh a minute, that one is. Full Metal Jacket, ooh la la, what fun. Das Boot, Amadeus. Come on, you fucking dumb twat. This is not the era of exclusively happy films that are all uplifting and all super yay. You're a moron. Your premise, aside from being false, your premise is false. Your criteria is stupid. And on top of it being stupid, it doesn't even apply to the decade you're using it for. There was plenty of downbeat, miserable fucking films made in the 80s, and a lot of them were really good.
They just gave people what they wanted to see and what they wanted to hear, as opposed to what stories and art is meant to do, which is to give people perspective that they need or should hear, rather than one they already know and want. You know what I mean? Like, when you watch 70s movies, the stories would give you a message for life, tell you something, give you a perspective you hadn't thought about. I talk about Michael Corleone before. For most people, they would have thought a mafia boss, they would have thought of them as a bad person. But through a different perspective in The Godfather, you go, oh, he's a family man, he's a good guy.
No, he's still a piece of shit. What? No. What? Just because the bad person is humanized doesn't make them good, you simple-minded fucking nitwit.
He's not that bad. And that was a cool thing about storytelling, and that's what I really like about storytelling, is giving a different perspective, challenging my thoughts. When I go to watch a movie, if it challenges a thought I may have on something, that makes it a good movie to me. Obviously, the acting needs to be good.
Well, why don't you go watch some of these 80s movies and challenge the thought that everything has to be some kind of thought-provoking masterpiece that changes the way you think about things? Maybe the way you think about these movies is fucking wrong, huh? Maybe you thinking that anything that's uplifting or light or popcorn is automatically bad, maybe that is a thought worth challenging, huh? Maybe? I don't even fucking believe you. There's no fucking way that you had, when you were sourcing clips for this, you had to go look at lists of 80s movies, and you had to ignore all of the examples to the contrary when you were cherry picking this shit. So this is 100% rage bait. You have no fucking credibility as a goddamn channel. You have no fucking credibility as a critic of film. You fucking suck ass. Fuck you. Never fucking come across my path again.